host of The Real Deal with my very special guest today for a video interview, Jerry Mazza, who is an independent journalist living in New York City and one of our nation's investigative reporters. Jerry, recently Barack Obama sought to justify our involvement in the Middle East by making three claims, namely that extremism is being practiced in Al-Qaeda in that region, and that is the area from which we were attacked on 9/11, that we didn't ask for this fight, but were attacked by 19 men who hijacked 4 airplanes and murdered nearly 3,000 people. And finally, if he didn't believe that the security of the United States and the safety of the American people were at stake in Afghanistan, he'd order every single one of our troops home tomorrow. What's your take on Obama's position? It strikes me as very naive.
Well, it is naive. The first obvious thing is if the 19 attackers, 15 of which were from Saudi Arabia, why didn't we attack Saudi Arabia? Well, that's because we've had an incestuous love affair over their oil. And we wouldn't think of doing something like that, so we pick on Afghanistan. But the larger issue really is that he's just reinforcing the administration myth created by George Bush and company, that this was done by Muslims, and this to really make a grab at Afghanistan for the purposes not so much of justice, but to seek the territories for use to build pipelines from the Caspian Basin region, which is full of oil and natural gas, and send those pipelines down through Afghanistan to Pakistan, to the Indian Ocean, to the Far East, and so on and so forth. So his thinking may be naive, but I don't think so. I think it's purposeful. I mean, conceivably, he's in the dark about this, but I don't think an American president would be quite so disinformed. I think he's probably just lying. That's my take. Once you reinforce that myth and people who are asleep refuse to wake up and believe it, then you have license to not only go to Afghanistan and start killing people, but to go down into Pakistan and have the CIA start sending drones from Langley, Virginia, in their offices. What did you do today, Dad? And killing people half a world away. You have Blackwater down there, newly called XE, for xenophobia, I'm sure. And then they go as far down as Yemen, and now into Somalia and the Horn of Africa. So we see the hegemonic march towards world conquering once again afoot, burning up lives and trillions of dollars in military and defense expenditures.
Jerry, let me ask you a couple questions.
But that's...
Yeah. Let me just ask. A number of us believe that the 9/11 events were orchestrated by elements of the Bush administration, especially a neo-Zionist cabal, and that there was a little help from their friends in Israel. Do you think that's closer to the truth than what we've been told by our government?
Well, I tend to think so. You know, you had Dov Zakheim, who was a dual Israeli-American citizen and a bona fide rabbi, who was the controller of the Pentagon from 2000 to 2004. And during his watch, $2.3 trillion went missing as of 9/10, the day before 9/11. Donald Rumsfeld made an announcement that that money was gone, whether it was all cash or whether it was in equipment and surplus, as they call it. Also, Zakheim was the CEO of a company in Israel that created remote control flying systems so that those planes conceivably could have flown without pilots with them or with pilots with their hands in their pockets. They also had a mission destruct piece of software which could send one of those planes into a wall or into the ground or into a building. So there is an enormous linkage right there. Then on the New York end, you had the leasing of the World Trade Center, the ever-lovely Lucky Larry Silverstein, who a month before 9/11 upped the insurance on the buildings to $3.5 million. And he specified in the contract that this should cover the hijacking of airplanes that would be flown into the towers. I mean, what is this guy, a fortune teller? I called my insurance guy up, and I'm not sure on what day I'm going to pass from this level into the next and how it's going to happen. And you should cover me for this, and you should cover me for extra for that. I mean, it's ridiculous. Plus, the guy that was running the Port of Authority at that time, who was also a dual Israeli citizen, took Silverstein and his partners, Frank Lowy and the Blackstone Group, took their bid, which was not the lowest bid. So they got this 99-year lease.
Jerry, I must say, yes. And of course, there's a story of the dancing Israelis who were observed on a rooftop across the river filming these events, were arrested and told the arresting officer, "We're not your problem, the Palestinians are your problem." They were incarcerated for 71 days until they were released by an assistant to then Attorney General John Ashcroft, who turned out to be Michael Chertoff. They went back to Israel, and 3 of them appeared on television and said they were there to film the destruction of the World Trade Center. Right.
Absolutely right. I mean, I documented that in a story called Happy 2001. And also Mike Romero had put it on his site, What Really Happened, in great detail. They were spotted by several witnesses. One guy was dancing on the roof of this white van for urban moving systems, which was also owned by an Israeli who fled back before they were arrested to Israel. So anyhow, one guy's dancing on the van with a cigarette lighter in his hand, and the towers are in the background burning. And several people see him and call the police, who finally come and arrest these guys. I mean, the chutzpah, so to speak, of these people doing this. Disgraceful. Barbaric.
Jerry, it seems to me the American people are uncertain about the events of 9/11. You've written a lot about it. How have your fellow New Yorkers responded to what you've had to say?
I think those who have open minds and some real intelligence grasp what's going on and understand it. They can think out of the box. I think many people, even with PhDs, several of my friends, don't get it. It's too many people are involved. How can it be done? How could so many people? Well, maybe there were not so many people involved. Maybe we had some help from a foreign power who had something to gain. Cui bono. Who profits? Certainly Israel would stand to profit greatly from the demonization of Islam and the Muslim world. So,
Jerry, in a nutshell, would you say that the principal motives for 9/11 appear to have been oil, Israel, and ideology?
I would say so, yes. Yes. I mean, here's a country, Israel, that does more spying on the United States, including our NSA, than any country in the world, enemy or friend.
Jerry, I'd love to talk more. We're gonna call it a day for the moment. I thank you very much. Keep up your great work.
Thank you. My pleasure, Jim. You too.